History has many villains, but few families have been so thoroughly shrouded in the perfume of incense and the stench of blood as the House of Borgia. To their contemporaries, they were the Spanish upstarts, foreigners who brought the papacy and turned the Vatican into a den of vice. To the modern historians, they're the ultimate political pragmatists, the family that provided Machiavelli with the blueprint for his prince. But beneath the layers of sensationalist propaganda, the rumours of poison rings, incestuous affairs, and midnight murders, lies a story of a family trying to survive and dominate a Renaissance Italy that was a little shark tank of rival dynasties. I am Dr. Amy Boyington, and this is the definitive account of the rise and the spectacular bloody fall of history's most infamous pope, Rodrigo Borgia. To understand the Borgias, we must first understand that they were perpetual outsiders. Born on the 1st of January 1431 in the sun-drenched town of Ceuta, Spain, Rodrigo was a product of the Kingdom of Valencia. The family name was originally Borgia, and their Spanishness was a stain they would never truly wash away in the eyes of the Roman elite, who viewed them with a xenophobic suspicion that bordered on hatred. The family's ascent began with Rodrigo's uncle, Alfonso de Borja, who ascended to the papacy as Pope Calixtus III in 1455. In an act of classic Renaissance nepotism, Calixtus made his young nephew a cardinal on February the 20th, 1456, at the age of just 25. Rodrigo was not a man of the cloth by conviction, he was a man of the cloth by career. He was described by contemporaries as possessing a magnetic charm and an almost superhuman stamina for administration. He was a man of intense earthly appetites, a lover of grand spectacles and beautiful women. Yet beneath the jovial exterior was a cold, calculating strategist. For 35 years, he served under 5 successive popes, amassing the wealth and the secrets necessary to one day claim the throne for himself. By the 1470s, Rodrigo had begun his defining relationship with Renaissance de Catane. Unlike other cardinals who had hidden their indiscretions, Rodrigo was brazen. He acknowledged his children and prepared to use them as the pillars of a new Borgia empire. The year 1492 is remembered for Columbus and the fall of Granada, but in Rome it was the year of the most scandalous conclave in history. Upon the death of Pope Innocent VIII, the College of Cardinals gathered on the 6th of August to elect a successor. The frontrunners were Giuliano della Rovere and Cardinal Sforza, but Rodrigo Borgia understood something his rivals did not. Every man had a price. In a masterclass simony, Rodrigo allegedly sent 4 mules laden with silver to Sforza's palace to secure his vote. He promised palaces to some, bishoprics to others, and cold hard cash to the rest. When the white smoke finally rose from the Sistine Chapel on the 11th of August, Rodrigo emerged as Pope Alexander VI. The Roman crowds were horrified. One chronicler recorded the chilling sentiment of the city, quote, "Now we are in the power of a wolf who will perhaps be the most rapacious the world has ever seen." Alexander VI did not view the papacy as a spiritual calling, he viewed it as a family business. His primary objective was the grand design, carving out a hereditary kingdom in central Italy for his children. To do this, he needed his son, Cesare. Cesare was the dark mirror of his father. Where Rodrigo was jovial, Cesare was brooding, silent, and possessed a terrible beauty. Cesare was originally forced into the church, becoming an archbishop at 18, but he hated the red hat. The turning point came on the 14th of June, 1497, when the body of his own brother, Juan, was pulled from the Tiber River, stabbed 9 times. The killer was never found, but the whispers in Rome were deafening. Cesare had murdered his own brother to take his place as the commander of the papal armies. On the 17th of August 1498, Cesare became the first person in history to resign as a cardinal. He traded his robes for armour and set out to conquer the Romagna. It was during these lightning campaigns that a Florentine diplomat named Niccolo Machiavelli watched him. Machiavelli was mesmerised by Cesare's well-employed cruelty, particularly at the Senigallia massacre in 1502, where Cesare invited his rebellious generals to a peace parley, only to have them all strangled. Cesare became the primary inspiration for Machiavelli's The Prince, the man who understood that in the game of power, the end always justifies the means. While the men of the House of Borgia fought with steel and gold, the women of the dynasty operated in the spaces between the lines of history. They were political prodigies who mastered the art of survival in a world that viewed them as mere currency. Let's first talk about the matriarch Venozza. Before there was a pope, there was Venozza. Born in 1442, she was the woman who occupied Rodrigo Borgia's heart for 15 years. She was never a fleeting mistress. She was the unofficial queen of the Borgia faction. Venozza was a shrewd pragmatist who built a parallel empire in Roman real estate, owning several successful inns and villas. She provided the Borgia children with their first lessons in social climbing, ensuring that they were raised with the dignity of royalty. Even after Rodrigo became pope, she remained his most trusted confidant, outliving almost all of her children and dying in 1518 as a respected philanthropist, the silent anchor of her family. Next, we have Giulia Farnese. In 1489, the 15-year-old Giulia became Rodrigo's primary mistress. The Roman public nicknamed her Sposa di Cristo, the bride of Christ. But Giulia was no mere ornament. She possessed a keen political intuition. She leveraged her intimacy with the Pope to secure a cardinal's hat for her own brother Alessandro in 1493. This bedroom diplomacy laid the foundation for the Farnese family's future. Alessandro would eventually become Pope Paul III, proving that a woman's influence in the Vatican was a legitimate avenue for building a dynasty. Thirdly, we must address the most famous of them all, Lucrezia Borgia. By 21, she had been married 3 times and widowed once by murder. Yet the real Lucrezia was a polyglot and a cultural brilliant. Her father recognised her intellect early on. In 1501, he took the unprecedented step of leaving her in charge of the Vatican while he was away. Her third marriage to Alfonso d'Este of Ferrara was her ultimate masterstroke. In Ferrara, she transformed from a Roman scandal into a beloved duchess, managing the state's finances and protecting the city during war. Upon her death in 1519, she was mourned not as a poisoner, but as a second Sappho, a woman who had successfully laundered one of history's darkest names. While history prefers to remember the Borgias for their crimes, they were, in truth, indispensable architects of the High Renaissance. Rodrigo Borgia understood that visual splendour was the ultimate tool of legitimacy. In a world where his moral authority was under siege, he utilised art to project a sense of divine inevitability. Immediately upon his election, Rodrigo commissioned the decoration of the Apartamento Borgia in the Vatican. He hired Pintorico to execute a series of frescoes that merged Christian theology with Borgia genealogy. The Borgia bull appears throughout the ceilings, gazing among the stars and Egyptian deities. Rodrigo is shown kneeling in prayer, his papal robes shimmering with real gold, a bold statement that the family's secular ambition was sanctified by the sacred. If Rodrigo used art to sanctify the Vatican, Cesare used science to conquer Italy. In 1502, he appointed Leonardo da Vinci as his general military architect and engineer. Leonardo travelled with the Borgia army, carrying a carte blanche pass that granted him entry to every fortress in the domain. It was during this period that Leonardo revolutionised cartography, producing the Plan of Imola, the first inchographic map, drawn as if seen from directly above. Cesare provided Leonardo with the funding and the raw political chaos he needed to test his most ambitious scientific theories, proving that the Borgias were the primary sponsors of the engineering that would later define the modern age. While the Borgias are known for all of these amazing things, the art, the science, they also are remembered for some scandals. The Borgia name is inseparable from the Black Legend. While many stories were of course fabricated, the documented scandals were enough to shatter the church's moral authority. Where Cesare reportedly hosted a dinner at the Apostolic Palace that devolved into a display of carnal excess. A contemporary apparently recorded this event, saying that 50 honest prostitutes, called courtesans, who danced after dinner with the attendants and others who were present, at first in their garments, then naked. After dinner, the candelabra with the burning candles were taken from the tables and placed on the floor, and chestnuts were strewn around, which the naked courtesans picked up, creeping on hands and knees between the chandeliers, while the Pope, Cesare, and his sister Lucrezia looked on. While historians debate the accuracy of this account and others, the fact that such a story could be believed speaks to the total collapse of the Vatican's sanctity. The greatest political scandal, however, was internal: the murder of Juan Borgia in 1497. When Rodrigo the Pope found his son's body, he locked himself in his chambers and vowed to reform the church to atone for his sins. But the vow lasted only a few weeks. Cesare's ambition was too great, and the Pope's love for his family was more powerful than his fear of God. By 1498, the Borgia bull was back to selling cardinalates to fund his son's wars. We must now address the myth of the Cantarella. The rumour was that the Borgias possessed a white, sugar-like arsenic powder used to eliminate wealthy cardinals, whose property would then revert to the church. While many cardinals did die suddenly, modern toxicologists believe that the poison was actually malaria. They died of natural causes. In the stagnant Roman summers, the Vatican was a death trap. The myth of the Borgia poison was largely a smear campaign by the Orsini and Colonna families, a way to explain the Pope's uncanny ability to outlive his rivals through witchcraft rather than sheer political luck. The Borgia end came with a brutal suddenness. On the 6th of August 1503, Alexander VI and his son Cesare both fell violently ill after a dinner in a vineyard. Rome erupted in rumours of poison, but it was likely the Roman fever. Cesare survived but was bedridden and incapacitated. Rodrigo, though, as Pope Alexander VI, died. He died on the 18th of August 1503, aged 72. Without the papal purse, Cesare's conquest collapsed. The new Pope Julius II, the Borgias' most bitter enemy, stripped Cesare of his power. Cesare was imprisoned, but he escaped to Spain, and he died in a minor skirmish on the 12th of March 1507, aged only 31. His last words were allegedly, "I die because I did not prepare for my own death while my father was alive." The Borgias were the ultimate accidental reformers. Their corruption was so vast that it eventually helped spark the Protestant Reformation, as Martin Luther looked towards Rome and saw a den of lions and vice. Yet they were also the greatest patrons of their age, funding the geniuses who defined the Renaissance. They were a family of outsiders who realised that in the Renaissance, power was not given, it was taken. Next time you visit the Vatican, look for the faded emblems of the Borgia bull. It is a reminder that the most sacred halls in the world were once the playground of the most worldly family in history. Thank you so much. I'm Dr. Amy Boyington. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, please like, comment, and subscribe.